Brace for impact. Cross the line.
This is my destiny. It is the truth I see. In this world I find a way to cross the line. Everybody's doing what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing the same thing. I'll be doing what I'll be doing. I'll be doing my thing. The world spins round to the right, they say. I'll be spinning the other way. Doing what I can, doing what I know. The world's my stage and I'm the show. It is my destiny. It is the truth I seek. In this world I find a way to cross the line. No possibilities for originality. Don't be left behind. Go ahead and cross the line.
Hey now, it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm going solo on that ass, but it's still the same. We're talking TNA Wrestling, TNA on AMC Episode 2, and man, I gotta say, right off the top, this was a pretty good episode, for real. I thought this was a pretty good episode. They needed this energy last week, and I know they were saving it. They had, they were trying to get to the pay-per-view last week, and they're trying to introduce everybody, and then they had a bunch of horseshit happening, and they have all the excuses in the world, and none of them fucking matter because they blew it last week. But they had a pretty good episode. They had a pretty good pay-per-view on Saturday. They had Genesis, and I thought they had a pretty good episode tonight, and I hope that helps get them back on track. But here's the problem for TNA. This is what they're facing now after what happened last week. Good isn't good enough when greatness is required. Good isn't good enough for TNA anymore. They have to be great. They got no choice but to be great. If they are not great, if they can't find greatness, if they can't challenge themselves, they're gonna blow this thing. They really are. Last week they made their big debut on AMC, and to be honest, it was a huge disappointment. They had the biggest opportunity in a decade to show the world what they are, and they blew it. Then we went into Genesis this past Saturday, hoping for a complete turnaround, and while it was a good show, good isn't the standard anymore. TNA is fighting for its life right now. It's in a new era, and they have no choice but to be great. And tonight in Albuquerque, we saw some flashes of that greatness, but we also saw some of the same old stuff holding them back. Very little of it, but it was there. Again, I liked the show. I thought the ending was great. I thought the opening match was great. I liked that they teased the Cedric stuff early, and I'm gonna have to go back and watch it to see what other like Easter eggs they put out there. But I liked the opening match. I liked the match with Jeff Hardy and Mustafa Ali. Downside is a lot of freaking commercials. and I get it. That's the deal. They're on basic cable. That's how they're paying their bills. That makes sense. I just have been watching for the last couple of years because I don't have Access TV. I've been watching on the app, and I watch a little bit later, so I don't really have to deal with the commercials. But now I'm trying. Now it's so late. It's 9 to 11. It's no longer 8 to 10. And now I'm just trying to watch live with everybody else because finally, like the kids are asleep at like 9, so that's like a good thing. I can just watch this show in peace. I don't want to watch the show with my kids, so because they're little, and sometimes TNA can be a little bit of off the wall. Like I don't watch Dynamite with my kids either because there's usually a lot of blood and violence. So we just don't do that in my family. But again, this was a really good show, and I don't want people to think that I'm like shitting on the company. I'm not. I just think they need to be better right now. They have to be better than good. They have to be great, like undeniably great. They have to, and you guys are not gonna like this, but I'm just gonna say it. They can't have shows that have like a 1-point cage match rating. I know you're gonna say my cage match is stupid. It doesn't matter. You're right. I agree with you. I think only idiots go to cage match and rate matches, but that's the problem, right? Those idiots are going there, and TNA gives them ammunition. They go in there and they they downgrade everything. Like they gave Genesis a poor rating, and that was a really good show, right? But because last week was so freaking bad, that is the perception, and TNA is fighting a perception problem. You know, they're fighting the perception that they're small time, that they don't deserve this spot, that they're being cuckolded by the WWE. And then of course you got all the idiots out there saying that they're going to be the number 2 promotion. So now you got that holding them back when people say those things. Because now they're being held to the standard of the second biggest promotion in the world, right? I had people say today, like, oh, TNA only sold 1,300 tickets, LOL. And I'm just like, that's actually like a decent like Thursday for them. It's like that's way better than what I'm used to for these guys. You know what I mean? So now they're like they're fighting all these battles in the perception war and the tribal war, and they don't need to give anybody any ammunition. And last week they gave them all the ammunition that they ever could need. So now they have to have these shows that don't get shit on by Cage Match, that influencers would like. Like take me out of the equation, right? Because I'm going to be critical to always to an extent. BQ is always going to be a little critical, right? I feel like I'm a bit more positive than most, but a lot of TNA fans don't like me because when I am critical, I'm really fucking tough. Like I can be brutal sometimes. Sometimes that's like part of my shtick. It's like my entertainment. Like I can't say like, oh, that wasn't for me. I have to say like it fucking sucked, right? Like that's more interesting, I think. But that is that is kind of a part of it. But take me out of the equation. I'm talking like Sean Ross Sapp, Brian Alvarez, Jim Cornette, Eric Bischoff. Like they're gonna impress those guys, right? Like they need as many people out there in the space saying as positive things about them as they can. They can't give them any more ammunition, right? So I wanted to get that out of the way. They need to be great, and I think tonight they were pretty damn close to that. Okay, one thing that they're missing that they need to get this thing rolling is a marquee acquisition. I'm going to get to Trey Miguel in a little bit. That's the top story tonight. But one thing that they need right away is a marquee acquisition. Let's take Jericho off the table. I think that ship has sailed. If I were Jericho and I watched that opening night, I would probably say no thanks. Right? I would rather go do a retirement tour and do the song and dance and the fucking list and the bullshit up in the WWE. I'd rather go do that. Okay, so let's take him out of the equation. So who do we have left? And there's really only 2 guys that I think could actually get people talking. And that's, Braun Strowman, obviously, which I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that he's going to wrestle anymore. And the guy that came on that's hitting free agency today or soon, I think, is Tommaso Ciampa. But he is not he's not like a super marquee name. He's a known guy. I do think he would be a great get for TNA because of the crossover with NXT. And I think he would be a good top heel attraction for the company. But that's really it's like slim pickings out there. So, okay, you can't get a marquee name. What do you need? You need a hot angle. And they closed the show I thought with a pretty good angle. I dug the angle, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about the angle too. And I'm going to get to you guys' chats. You guys are lively tonight. I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's chat. If you do send a super chat, I'll make sure to just stop what I'm doing and get to that. Even as for like $1, like I'll do that. But I'm not gonna not get to your chat because you're not paying. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm gonna try to get to everybody's, right? But if you want to get ahead in the line, go ahead and throw down a super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Help us pay some bills around here. Help me pay for this fucking ridiculous microphone. You see this Shure mic? It's the same microphone that Joe Rogan uses. My microphone crapped out on me on Monday. So during the live stream, so I went ahead and it's just well, I'm gonna get the greatest mic in the history of the world, and so that's what I have right now. Okay, let's get to the chat. I want to get to your guys' feedback here. Let's see. Alter the Squirrel says 1,000,000 times better. Hell, Elena had some vocal inflection in her promo. I was worried about her promo. Here's what they did. I thought that they gave her some good things to say. I don't know that she was overly scripted or not. She's not very fluid the way she does her promos. It doesn't come off as like crazy natural, but I did think that she performed it well, and they kept it short. And that was one of the big problems last week. It wasn't that they had a lot of promos, it's that they were all too long, right? Like the system one lasted forever, and I thought Dango and Eddie Edwards were gonna fuck at one point, right? And then they introduced Mr. Elegance, and they just took up so much time, and then they followed it with a really bad match. I'm not a guy that thinks you need to have 10 matches every week and they'll have to be 5 stars. Tonight they had 4. I think 4 to 6 is a good good range, right? And I think that you need to have a lot of promo time, but the promos have to be short. I don't think that the promo should like go over 30 seconds unless it's, of course, it's a guy that is a super like an out of this world talented promo like Mike Santana. They got 2 guys in this company that could fucking talk their asses off. It's Mike Santana and it's Steve Macklin, and it's those 2 guys. Like EY's pretty good, and like everybody, like Nick Nema's pretty good, and a lot of people are pretty good. But Mike Santana and Steve Macklin can sit in the middle of the ring and captivate an audience by telling their stories, right? And that's what we got tonight from Mike Santana. But for the most part, everybody should just be kept 30 seconds or less, right? Let's see. Heel Eddie is always better than babyface Eddie Edwards. I just don't want to see another husband-wife feud between those 2. Yeah, that did worry me. It's like, okay, Alicia's not in on this because they did that before when Eddie turned heel. They did that before, and I don't need to see them in an angle together. Or maybe they're going to write off Alicia Edwards, which would piss off BQ. But maybe they're going to get a different like heel manager for the group. I could see that, but I think Alicia Edwards is a good heel. She's very bland as a babyface, but I think that she's just like very good as kind of like that, kind of Southie, like Boston, like probably smokes cigarettes and sips on whiskey and it's like, cusses at the dinner table, like one of those ladies. Like she just seems like the type. I'm probably completely wrong, by the way, but I just like when I like how she acts. I think she does a good job of it, right? She's good. Nicholas Riley is a nice show this episode. Macklin's definitely gone. Damn, yeah, I'm worried about that. And then he says, "Great seeing Trey back. Hopefully, EY is fired because he's on a handshake deal and brings the least value on screen out of the other characters. I want Trey to take that international title off Staxi immediately. I agree. I do agree with you. Okay, what's this? Nap 528 TNA Plus audio is still rolling while they tape another live TV episode. TNA, you're the best. I love TNA so much. The audio finally cut out after 10 minutes. So you got any scoops, brother? What happened? Like, let us know. Good episode, like the system swerve. I do too. Dinesh says it's a bad look for everyone. I don't know what you're talking about, brother. I don't know what that's there. Okay, Lucky Charms got some nitpicks. I have our 2 matches ended the same way with the roll up. I did notice that, yeah. And they did 2 swerves with the Elegance brand and the system. System had 2 swerves itself, so we did 3 swerves tonight, right? But you know what? Like I get what you're saying, but they needed to jumpstart some storylines for sure. And then but they didn't need to do the swerve with Ash by Elegance to get her to like return. Like they could have done that in a different way, but it's TNA. They live for the swerve, swerve, bro. Paul Mathewson's great show this week. Couple audio problems, but the crowd, they were into it. And Pooh acting was good. Okay. I don't know who Pooh acting is. All right. Colby Cooper. Colby, my man. He says, I thought that the ending was spectacular. Exactly the kind of shocking moment TNA needs right now. They're swinging big. I agree. I agree with it. I like the new heel faction. Problem is, and what I was kind of getting at is like I like Bear Bronson. I kind of like predicted him. I was like, it's either gonna be Bear or it's gonna be EC3 or Matt Taven that's gonna be in that group. He's not a marquee name, and Cedric Alexander, I like him. He's a great wrestler, and I think he could be a pretty good heel, but he's also not like marquee. In fact, I think the only like marquee guy in that group is like Eddie Edwards. So maybe what you do is you got like Eddie as the leader and Bear Bronson and Brian Myers be a tag team. Brian Myers trained him, so that makes sense, right? Although Eddie and Eddie and Brian were a great tag team, but that was because Moose was the leader of the group. So they kicked Moose out, and now I think Eddie's the leader. And so now you do a feud between Eddie and Moose, and I'm like, count me in on that because they have feuded before, and their feuds were always pretty good. Okay. All right, guys. I gotta get to some other topics. Let me just knock out a couple more chats here. Very light on NXT, which was good. I agree. Like, good. Thank you for pointing that out, dude. Did great tonight. Need them to come to San Francisco. Yeah, for sure. S Bubs says, I'm not a frequent TNA watcher and thought last week was an awful show. Well, you're not alone in that. I think nobody in this chat is going to come in here and defend that show last week. But I tuned in this week and out of morbid curiosity for Feast or Fired and actually enjoyed the show overall. Well, there you go. I think this guy's going to come back. Okay. And Josh says, yeah, it's 4:20 a.m. I'll listen on Patreon when I wake up. Have a good rest of the stream, pal. All right, brother. I'll make sure to get that up on Patreon before I go to sleep tonight. Sometimes I just like straight to bed because it's late and I get up early. But for you, brother, I'll get this up on Patreon. Okay. All right, a couple more. I absolutely hated last week's episode. This week they totally redeemed themselves. The ending was amazing, an actual shock, which is rare nowadays. My only gripe is the backstage audio problems. Yeah, that was like an issue all throughout the show. It's like, can you guys get your shit together with the microphones? Okay. TNA just dropped the official re-signed graphic for Trey. Cool. I'm going to get to that story next. Okay, perfect. All right. And we got wrestling covers. All right. My man, hey, thanks for the Baron Corbin graphic, brother. I appreciate you. I sent him a DM and I was like, dude, I need this graphic more than I need air. and he smartly did not put his name on the graphic. I think I just kind of outed him though as the one that made it for me because I was like trolling AEW fans last night. so I appreciate you, man. Like Baron Corbin was on AEW last. Well, he was like in a dark match. And AEW fans are not happy. And when they're upset, that makes me happy. So I appreciate it. Okay. All right. Let's go to the breaking news. I'll hit the button.
Breaking news.
Yep, breaking news. You guys heard it. You guys watched it. Trey Miguel has re-signed with TNA Wrestling. His contract was due, I think, at the beginning of the year. And him and Zach Wentz, Myron Reed, and Desmond Xavier all signed with AEW. And he was only under contract with them for like a week. And a WBD exec or multiple execs or somebody from WBD's side caught wind of some of Trey's like pretty awful, I would say, like gross and disgusting. And he would agree with that. I think he's mature enough. He would say the same. In fact, I think in like one day he hit the trifecta. He was, racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic, like all in the same day, right? Just having a complete meltdown in an argument with David Starr. And he apologized for it like pretty quickly. And it was covered at the time. I think he might have even been reprimanded or something. I don't think he was under contract to Impact at the time, but he certainly came out and apologized. And then he did try to like make amends. Now David Starr has since been canceled himself, right? He's a sex pest, allegedly, but he hasn't been back. So, but David Starr did like take to Facebook and was like Trey, actually Trey's a good dude. Like now I don't know if Trey needs David Starr to come out and have his back like that. Like I don't know if that helps. But he said that, yeah, look, he was like a young guy at the time, and it was just a really ugly argument, and he wasn't being himself. But that's not the guy. And then everybody, like one by one, like lately has come out and said, whoever that was, like at that time that said those awful things, that's not who he is. He's a friend to everybody. He's an ally to the gay community. He's an ally to everybody. He's not anti-Semitic. He doesn't hate anybody. He was a stupid idiot, got into an argument and said some dumb shit, and he regretted it. And he took to Twitter this week and said as much. Like, I'm not going to pull it up and give you the exact quote because I covered it in a video already. But that guy's apologized so many times. And sometimes that's just not good enough for certain people. They just don't want you to have jobs anymore, or at least not a job where they have some type of power or authority. And I think that's sad because I thought that Trey Miguel would have had a really good career in AEW, but AEW's loss is TNA's gain. And I'm excited to see Trey back. You know, he's family to TNA. I There's even people out there that thought that maybe he didn't really want to leave, but he wanted to go be with his friends who were all going. But he was happy to stay with TNA, and they're happy to have him back, and they have him back immediately. And I thought it was smart to put him on the show, and I really like the way they did it. You know, they put him part of the Feast or Fired, and we'll get to the obvious story that they could do, but they he come out for his entrance, the crowd went crazy, and while he's going around ringside and posing with the fans, I loved this from Tom Hannafin. And Tom Hannafin, thank you for doing this. This was he's a classy guy too, and he's a guy that also has made some mistakes and has grown from them, right? And I think we all have. And he said TNA Wrestling is proud to announce, and he used the word proud, that Trey Miguel has re-signed with TNA Wrestling. And I thought that was cool. Really like that, like that's how you get someone's back right there. That's how you like endorse somebody. I bet that made Trey feel really good that, you know, not only Tom Hannafin would say that, but obviously it's coming from Carlos and Tommy Dreamer, and that family that's there in that backstage area. Say what we want about a lot of the mistakes that they make and a lot of the dumb shit they put on TV sometimes that we always like have fun with. They really are kind of a close-knit group. So I'm really happy for, you know, TNA to be able to get Trey back. I'm happy for TNA, or for Trey Miguel, that he's landed back in TNA. But I am disappointed that he didn't get to go and be a part of that act with the Rascals on AEW, because that is like a significantly bigger audience, a bigger reach, and was probably more money. I don't know how much more money, but I assume that those guys are doing pretty good now, right? Those guys might be able to buy homes now. You know what I mean? So I'm happy for Trey Miguel. Now he did get a slip, or he did get a briefcase, and the obvious. I think everybody said it ad nauseum. And I was gonna come on this show and have this idea and like be the first one, but no, like literally everybody said it on Twitter. So I was like, I'm not a genius. But the obvious is, what if he gets the briefcase and then he gets fired right away? So that would be the most TNA thing ever, and it would be hilarious. But they're not going to do that. Now, I think the question is like, which title does he go for? Is it the X Division title, or the international title, or is it the world title? Knowing TNA is probably going to be X Division. I think that's where they see him slotted. But I think it would be cool to see him be the one. It'd be cool to see him be the one to go for the international title and take that belt off of Stacks. And I think that would be cool, but I'm predicting it's going to be X Division. Now, the other briefcases we're going to get into once I start going through the rundown of the show. And it was a newsworthy show, and I thought it was like I said, I thought it was a real good show. But let's see. Chad Schultz says, if I remember right, he turned down NXT when they all left. That's not necessarily true. He wanted to go there. They wanted him, but I think there was an issue with the contract. And they came out and buried Trey Miguel after that. And then he ended up returning back to at the time it was Impact Wrestling, but he ended up returning and he got a push like right away. And I thought he was going to be a top guy for sure. Like the problem is like he's on the smaller side, and I think some people have that like smaller guy. Like I think he's like the same size as Finn Balor, right? He's same size as Rich Swann, who was the former world champion. But for some reason, there's certain guys out there that are kind of smaller that might not ever break through into that heavyweight division, heavyweight realm. But I thought that he was going to. I do expect them to bring him back and just put him right back in that X Division title mix. Leon was set to defend the X Division title against. He was set to defend against Myron Reed on the first episode of Impact on AMC, but obviously everything that happened there, Myron goes to AEW. Leon's stuck in the UK, and there's also the fact that it's very likely that WWE was pulling him anyway. And by pulling him, I mean like they asked for him, and TNA obliged. They asked for him, and TNA obliged, and got AJ Styles in return. And at the same time, he had a visa issue. I think all of those things could be true, and all those things could have concurrently been happening, for sure. But yeah, so he could have just like slipped right back into Myron Reed's spot. Whatever they had planned for Myron, they can just put Trey in that spot for sure. But I do think at some point, because he's a really talented guy, he's a good promo too. He's a real good promo. The guy's got a backstory, man. He had a rough upbringing, and he's talked about it before. He's talked about it openly, and I'd like to see them bring that out of him. With a kind of a newer character going forward, right? What I don't think they need to do is like, here's Trey Miguel, the guy that couldn't get hired by AEW. They got to do something with the character and do something great with him. But he's been in TNA since like 2018 and kind of done it all, but he has not been a main eventer. And maybe like that's the next progression of his career, and I'd like to see that. And by main eventer, that doesn't mean like booked over Santana and over, Nick Nemeth and Macklin and those guys. Like, I think he's just like, he's one of those guys now. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not like better than, he is like part of that crew. I think I would like to see if he can get to that level at some point, because it's been proven he's not going to WWE. He's definitely not going to AEW. He's your guy now. Like, if you can't love the one you want, love the one you're with, So Trey Miguel and TNA, you guys are fucking together now, right? He's going to be Eddie Edwards. He's just like, his career, this is where he's going to be at. So you might as well make the best of it. And TNA, like, you got this really talented guy that is good enough to be in a bigger promotion, but he has some skeletons, and because of that, like, you get the benefit. So you better do something with him. Push the guy, give him a unique character, do something interesting with him. I would love to see it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get to the show, and then chat. I will be kind of I have my show notes. I actually took notes this time, but I'm not really good at taking detailed notes of the matches, because I have to watch the matches, and then after the match is over, then I take the notes. When I think a lot of people are taking notes while they watch the match, I can't. Right. I can do it like in a lecture, right? Like where I'm like listening to the teacher, and I can like do certain phrases and buzzwords and stuff to trigger my brain. But when I'm watching a wrestling match, I just can't. So, all right. So tonight, like I said, was a real good show. Miles better than last week's abomination of an episode. Was it as great as it needed to be? We won't find out for a couple of weeks, because I think this week's episode is probably going to be significantly lower rated than last week's. But if this being good gets enough word of mouth, maybe next week could be better than this week. And so we would be finding out the rating for that the following week. Yes, ratings talk is fucking back. I got a video out talking about last week's rating. Next week on this episode, I don't think I'm going to do like a special video every time we get a different rating, unless it's significant. But I will be talking about the previous week's ratings every week right here on Brace for Impact. So just like, beware, like the ratings talk is coming back. It is not the end all be all, but it is a data point that we get access to in a business that we really don't get a lot of access to data, right? We don't get the pay-per-view buys. We get ticket sales now, and we get ratings, and that's it. So we got to talk about it. We're going to talk about the business of TNA and what's working, what's not working. I like those numbers mean something. Okay. So tonight's production, though, not up to par. Like I said, when I said at the top of the show, good isn't good enough anymore. Greatness is required. This is what I mean. They cannot have these technical issues that they're known for. They got to button that up. And every single backstage segment had audio issues. They just weren't mic'd. They weren't mic'd properly. And then when you open the show, immediately out of the gate, the audio was a disaster. Like Tom Hannafin sounded like he was in a tin can. There's an echo, and then 4 minutes in, Matthew Raywald's mic started acting up. Then later in the night, a promo by The Righteous. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I could barely hear it. I could barely hear it, and I didn't really like. I knew that they were just being weird and talking about the Hardys, but I didn't quite. I couldn't make out what the words were because it was just mic'd so poorly. And then, if you want to be a major league player on AMC, you can't have your lead announcers cutting out, and it pulls the viewer out of the greatness and reminds them of TNA, right? And it gives, again, what it does is it gives the people, the TNA LOL crowd, it gives them ammunition, right, to do those things. And you're like, oh well, those people don't mean anything. Well, you're right to an extent. But what they do is it creates this perception, and TNA needs all the goodwill they can get at this point. And they need people to say nice things about them. And they never have that. And it's their fault. They give people ammunition to dog on them all the time. Everybody thinks they're a fucking joke. And I would love to talk to somebody in that company and be like, do you want to be a fucking joke? Like, you work your ass off, you're putting your body on the line, and you got all these dickheads laughing at you. Does that make you feel good? I bet it doesn't, right? And so and it's small minor issues like this. Like for me, I notice them, but it doesn't take me out of the show completely, right? Although I was frustrated with the Righteous promo, but the good news was, okay, despite that, I thought that the action was good. I thought the promos were pretty good. Some of them were a little cringy, but I think that's the Elegance brand. I think that's the point. They're supposed to be cringy, right? That's the gimmick. But overall, the action was good, and it started right away. So we opened the show, and we're like 4 minutes in, and Carlos Silva gets introduced to the crowd. This guy loves being on TV, man, and it's irritating to a lot of people, and I just find that hilarious because I don't think he does anything like offensive on television. But we all see where this is headed, right? He's going through a table at some point. There's already rumors that Bully Ray's coming to the company. He wasn't there at the tapings, but I think they want him in creative, and they want him to be a producer, and they want him to help out. And he's going to put Carlos Silva through a table. It's going to happen. So just like it's happening. But yeah, he opened the show, and it was more like a welcome thing. It was wholly inoffensive, but people don't like that. So it is what it is. But then we went right into what they should have done last week. Just two really good pro wrestlers, like in their prime, having a really good pro wrestling match. When I was watching it, I was like, God damn, Cedric Alexander's so good. And Moose is so good. Moose might actually be like a real bad guy in real life. Okay. I know he's got the DV arrest, and he was cleared, but he didn't at least on social media, he didn't treat people very nice. And he says a lot of stupid things, right? He might be a dumb guy. So I think it's a high probability this guy is like not good. Okay. But what he is an amazing professional wrestler. And nobody wants to give him the credit because of how he behaves, right? And that's a shame because he's so good. And Cedric Alexander is fantastic. And Moose is becoming such a good babyface, which is difficult because, like in real life, he appears to be the opposite. But he sold his back injury like he was fucking Ricky Steamboat. He sold it so well, and I talked about this on the Genesis recap. He sold it so well that I had DMs telling me, "Oh man, it sucks. Moose is hurt." I'm like, bro, he's working. But Moose sold the back injury from Genesis. He's also been teasing it online. The first 5 minutes were a bit slower, like storytelling. Moose selling the back, Cedric Alexander attacking the back, and then they got at one point Cedric Alexander hit a Spanish fly, and then Moose got him into a power bomb, but Cedric rolled him up for a pin there. So Cedric gets the win, but Moose is hurt, right? So that's the story. Moose is, and that plays into the system beatdown later. Moose is hurt, and they think that he's done, so they need a replacement. So they get the guy that just beat him, right? And like, okay, well, shit, that actually kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, fucking kudos to you. That I was like, you guys actually did something reasonable that makes sense. So, like, awesome, right? So that was I thought that was really good there. Okay. I gotta scroll up on my notes here. Sorry. My notes got a little bit jumbled. I apologize. Um so we got Moose, and then next up we got the Mike Santana promo. And he brought a chair. He comes through the audience, obviously. He brought a chair and he's discussing his real life struggles with addiction. And then he plays some emotional audio of his father saying, essentially saying that he belongs here. And I thought it was a really good quote. It's like, you deserve to be here. You belong here. You've worked hard for this. It's your time. And it was like a voicemail that his father left him before he died. And that'll bring a tear to a glass eye right there. That is some pretty hard hitting stuff. Santana's a great world champion because he's authentic. When he did his promo tonight, I believed every word he said, and you don't get that a whole lot from pro wrestling anymore. Mike Santana believes everything he's saying. He's real. Most of these guys, they're playing fictional characters on television. Mike Santana doesn't come across as that. Mike Santana is like an authentic babyface world champion, an everyman, authentic babyface world champion that's gone through some shit, that's battled addiction, that's battled injuries, battled depression, right? I thought he nailed this promo. It's one of the better promos I've seen in a long time, and I've seen a lot of good ones lately because I've been watching some classics. And I think that Mike Santana could have hung with any great promo of any era. And that's a bold statement, but I'm saying it. He could. He's great. He's a great world champion. And to everybody, that while he was in AEW and he was, letting it be known that he was unhappy there and he wanted out. And the people that ridiculed him and said that you just need to hold the tag rope, boy. You guys have never done anything significant in your lives. You've never taken a chance on yourself. You've never succeeded. You've never been a leader. It's a coward's way out. It's a coward thinking, right? Mike Santana's not that guy. He's a real authentic. He's been through some shit and he's fighting to be successful. And here he is. He's the world champion of a small promotion. I get it. But he is the captain now. He is the leader of the company. And I think that bothers some people. But I think that says more about you than it says about Mike Santana. Mike Santana's fucking great. And you guys got to get used to it because he is he's everything that I'm saying that he is. Okay. And then next we go to, hold on, let me see. We got a promo from Mustafa Ali. He was just I didn't really get much out of this, to be honest with you. It was short, so that was good. And I think Ali's a great promo too. But he humiliated Jim Miller a little bit and then hyped up his match in the main event with Jeff Hardy. And then the next up was M by Elegance versus Indy Hartwell. Match wasn't great, but it wasn't like horrible either. And thankfully, they did like 4 minutes of commercials during the match because I'm like, oh man, if I have to see 4 more minutes of Indy Hartwell, it'd be bad. So they actually like started off like, okay, had some interferences, but that's what you get with the Elegance brand. That's the gimmick, right? So you got to like know that going in. It's house torture shit. So they do some cheesy shit around the side. They distract Indy. Like Ash is kind of playing babyface, telling them not to do those things. And it's just a lot of comedy. But I thought when Maggie and Indy were wrestling, I didn't think it was bad. In fact, Maggie is like a really good pro wrestler. I hope that she gets to show that one day. Not that I want her out of this gimmick, but I think they can like upgrade the gimmick and like let her wrestle. I think that's okay. She's really good. So is Heather Reckless. She's really good too. I'd like to see them actually wrestle more. But she went in there and she had did some decent stuff with Indy. Then they cut to commercial for like 4 minutes, and they come back and like 2 minutes later they go home. Like, okay, that's genius. like you don't have to like every Indy Hartwell match should have a 4-minute commercial break, and you really only see her wrestle for like 3 minutes. That's smart. I like that. Good call by TNA. So, but anyway, they came back, and the Elegance brand was starting to beat down Indy after the match, and then Ash by because Indy won, but they started to beat her down after the match, and then Ash by Elegance stops the beatdown, and then they start shoving Ash by Elegance, and all of a sudden, Laying Lee and Zaya Brookside come out to get Ash's back, and then Ash turns on them. That was the first swerve of the night. Ash then turns on them and starts hitting some moves and taking some bumps, and then she announces that she's back. And then they go to a commercial break, and they come back. Tons of commercials, man. Just like fucking a lot. They go to commercial, they come back, and they're backstage, and it's like cheesy as shit, but it's what it is. And they announce that yes, she's out of retirement, and she is much like Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali and Tiger Woods. She has retired and come back, and now she's on her comeback tour. So I wonder what that injury was, and we probably will never find out. But and that's fine, that's her business. But it was fun. I felt real bad for her when she retired, because I was like, you're kind of just like getting good. Like, she really got into the character. I thought she was a good heel. So yeah, I thought she was like getting good. All right, next up, we're gonna have to start burning through this because I can see that we're coming up getting close to midnight. So next we got Feaster fired. It's a Rich Swann, Macklin, AJ Francis, Hodgson Schuyler, Mance Warner, Hometown Man, Eric Young, and then of course the returning Trey Miguel, who we talked about earlier. Lots of big moves, big dives off of the scaffolding, and crowd was really hot for it. Lots of "this is awesome" chants, some "holy shit" chants that was getting bleeped out. We haven't had that in a while on TNA. Hometown Man ended up getting a case, but because my like full disclosure, my prediction, like my first official prediction, was Steve Macklin gets fired, right? And then when they said that Hometown Man was going to make it back because his visa's squared away, so he's back. Everybody else should be back at the next set of tapings. But I was like, okay, well, they announced him as re-signing last week, and that makes no sense. Like, you don't need to announce that. Like, where was he going to go? It's like, no offense, I like him. He seems like a good dude. It's like lower card comedy, but he's fine. And I was like, okay, well, they're just going to fire him because he's a backstage producer now anyway. I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. You get 3 title shots, and then you just fire a guy that you probably didn't want him wrestling anyway. So he gets the case, but you got to touch the floor. So when you get the case, you come down to the ring, and then you got to go out of the outside and hit the floor, okay? Well, he grabs the case, he comes down, he's on the ring apron, he gets attacked by Eric Young, who rips his mask off and then grabs a briefcase, and now he's got it. So he has briefcase number 1. Number 2 is a Steve Macklin. He got a briefcase. Number 3 was Trey Miguel. And number 4, lastly, was Eddie Edwards. So here's and we're going to get the results next week. And my official prediction is I am worried that Steve Macklin's getting fired here, but I'm going to go ahead and say Eric Young gets fired. Okay. That's my official prediction. Keep in mind, I have not read spoilers yet. Those are not coming out till this weekend. So if I say like anything after this because I read spoilers, well, I'm just not going to do that. So official prediction, you guys can hold me to it, is Eric Young gets fired, which kind of sucks, but he might just transition into producing, kind of like what I said about Hometown Man. I think Eddie Edwards gets the world title shot. That makes sense now that he just like took over as the main guy of the system. So I think that makes sense. And I think fucking dude, count me in for Eddie Edwards and Mike Santana on pay-per-view. Fucking sign me up right now. I think Trey Miguel goes for the X title, and then Steve Macklin goes for the international title and gets his title back from Styx. I think that's what it is. And then we cut back to Santana and Nemeth. They get into a backstage brawl. Nick Nemeth took it to a dark place, telling Santana he's taken the title and that Santana won't be able to go home and look his daughter in the eye anymore. That pissed Santana off. They got into a wild backstage brawl. So they got a personal issue. So they're keeping the Nemeth feud alive. They go to commercial, and then they cut back. And BDE is in the back playing video games with some fucking nerds. And Nick Nemeth comes in and confronts them for not paying attention to what's happening on the show. So Nemeth is babyface now. and calls them like marks for playing video games during the show. But BDE didn't back down, said, "Hey, I paid my dues. And why don't we have a match next week?" And so Nema took him up on it. So we're getting that match next week. And then Alayna Black comes out and says that she's viral and she's taking the KO title. Short and sweet. Didn't say much. But she says that she's going to be the Knockouts champion. Every fucking NXT washout lady comes to this company, they automatically get a title shot. Every single one, like Indy Hartwell, and now like Alayna Black, who she actually might be better than Indy, but she's still like not good. I don't know. I'm worried about that one. And then the Santino family. So they Santino and Daria Ray were backstage kind of talking up Alayna Black, and then Daria's like, "No, she's gonna be a big star, and I'm gonna be right, as always." That's really all that we saw of Santino and Daria for the most part. I don't remember seeing them at all. Their stuff was kept to a minimum, and I'm like, okay, good. Like they don't need to be in every segment of the show. And I was worried that when we had 2 heel authority figures that's what we were going to get. So I'm glad that they were kind of kept to a minimum. Like have the story, like we're already doing it, but keep it to a minimum. But at some point, Santino's got to go, and then Daria can just take over. But she's on a 6-month deal, so we just don't know how long she's going to be around. Like as of right now, it's just 6 months. So this is very much a short-term thing. And Santino is Santino, and he's been doing this gimmick for he's been in this role for 2 years now. It's like time to transition him out into something else. But anyway, his daughter Ariana Grace comes in and apologized for her recent behavior, started crying, squeezed out some tears, and then give her dad a big hug. And her dad fell for it, which I understand. I have a daughter. I would fall for that shit too. In fact, I probably fell for it 3 times this week. And then we go to the main event match anyway. Jeff Hardy versus Mustafa Ali. Hot crowd, dude. The Albuquerque crowd gave the Hardys a massive pop, and then the energy stayed despite the constant interference from Order 4. And then, of course, Matt Hardy was getting involved in like a lot of shenanigans on the outside. But I thought this was a good match. I dug it. I want to see these guys wrestle again on like a pay-per-view. We don't have another like 4 or 5 minute commercial break during it, but we did get that. But coming back from the commercial break, it was hot. It was hot, man. And then you got some more interference, and Mustafa Ali goes to get the tag title belt to use it on Jeff. Matt takes it away from him. Matt ends up brawling with the Order 4 guys, and then he takes out Agent Zero. And then inside the ring, Mustafa Ali gets the best of Jeff Hardy, and then he hits the Jeff Hardy gets the best of him, hits the swanton, or goes for the swanton, misses. Mustafa Ali then hits the 450 splash. Jeff Hardy kicks out. And then Ali's getting the best of Jeff again, and all of a sudden he hears a guitar strum, gets distracted. Jeff takes advantage, hits the swanton, and it's over. Elijah towards the end of the match distracts him, comes out, points the guitar at him, and that distracts Ali. So they're keeping that feud alive. And then we go to the back, we get the Righteous, but I couldn't really make out what they were saying. I'm sure it was great though. And then in the final segment, so they were putting Moose and they're putting the System segment as the final segment. I'm like, okay, well then maybe they got like a big star. It's either they're getting a big star or they are doing a big angle. And we got a big angle, but no big stars. So like I said, Fandango announces they have like 5 minutes to get this done, by the way, and they were able to pull it off, so kudos. But the System comes out. Dango introduces Bear Bronson as his replacement, says, hey, look, it's not about like now, it's about the future. So they bring out Bear Bronson. I was like, okay. I thought it was either going to be Matt Taven, EC3, or Bear Bronson. 1 out of 3. I guess if you like pick enough people, you're going to get one right. So but Bear Bronson comes out, and he's the pick. He's the guy. And then Dango goes to hug Eddie Edwards. Eddie gives him a hug, drops to his knee, and gives him the low blow, and then falls over. Fucking falls over. And then Bear Bronson attacks Moose, and then the beatdown's on. Cedric Alexander comes out. He's got a chair, and I'm like, okay, Cedric's turning. Like I saw that coming. And the System escape, and Cedric then like gets behind Moose and then hits Moose with a chair. System comes back in the ring, do a big beatdown. Alicia has no idea what's going on. She's telling them to stop, but they're just like not paying attention to her. So we're gonna have that going on. But man, we got a big angle, and so I'm glad. I thought this was a really good episode, a much better episode than we got last week, and then hopefully they carry some momentum into next week, and then maybe we get something big happening. So we'll see. I'm skeptical. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna get to some chats here, and then I gotta roll out. Hey, Ronnie in the chat. I'm not giving you the time of day, brother. I'm just not. Like, you're trying way too hard to be a troll, and I'm just like, I'm not interested, dude. Say something smart, and then maybe we'll talk to you, brother. But we're not doing that. Okay, let's see. Let's get to Macklin ready to feud with the frat house. Yeah, maybe. World title contract briefcase was kept spoiled already when TNA Plus kept the audio going. Oh, dude, DM me that. Could you please like let me know what happened there? If you're already off, then I'll just DM you. What do you mean there aren't people who don't say nice things about TNA when Io is right there? Yeah, that's Io's gimmick for sure. Okay. Let's see. I want blood in the main event next week, says Lucky Charm. This is the same network that aired The Walking Dead. None of The Walking Dead. They aired The Equalizer last week. This week is Guardians. Guardians doesn't really do blood. But yeah, they do a lot of blood on this network. So I would like to for sure. Okay. Wrestling Cover says Maggie Lee is really good. Yeah, I agree, man. I really dig Maggie Lee. Maggie carried that match. The post-match angle was hella good, in my opinion. Glad Ash is doing better and seems to be cleared. Yeah, I'm glad for that too. I'm happy for her. I was worried about her. You know, she worked really hard and kind of got her character down, and it did a good job. So I'm glad that she's back. Good for her, man. Okay. TNA needs to bring in Lily Ruiz. Never heard of that person, but I'm sure they're great. Okay. Ryan Nemeth should have gotten the briefcase and be fired. Yeah, that would have been better than who is probably getting fired. When is Mara Sade getting a push? That's so weird. You know, they brought her in and I thought that she was going to get a push. I think maybe she got hurt because she had that match like where she was teaming with the Hardys, and it was a good match. And I was like, okay, I think they got something in Mara Sade. And then she just didn't wrestle for a while. So I'm curious to see what's going to go on with her. Easy Too Quick. I really wanted Matt Taven in TNA. I still think you can get it. For sure. It's not like people think he might be going to NWA. Even if he goes to NWA, I think he could still end up in TNA too. Like you could work both. Like Rich Swann was just on like NWA this week. I saw the highlights. So, but all right, guys, that is going to do it for me this time on Brace for Impact. Greatly appreciate it. Head over to the Mike and JD Show Patreon. Go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. I did another Impact on Pop episode this week and actually corresponded with EC3 over it. So check that out on Patreon. And I did some breaking news on Patreon. And if anything breaks over the weekend, I'll be sure to hit that up. And then, of course, I'll hit up this YouTube channel. But make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. All right, guys. Until next time. Mahalo.
Brace for impact. Cross the line.
This is my destiny. It is the truth I see. In this world I fight a way to cross the line. Everybody's doing what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing the same thing. I'll be doing what I'll be doing. I'll be doing my thing.